Trevor, hello, welcome.
What's up, brothers?
Didn't miss much. Make sure you look at the chat and click on the Google Doc that Anthony worked hard on for us to review.
Yes.
Trevor, you all caught up?
Yes.
Beautiful. I acknowledge my lack of proactivity, so I fell 4 pages short of completion. So just acknowledging that before we start, and I am committed to being in completion a day before with our next reading.
Beautiful.
Alrighty, invisible guidance is available to you. As Max already stated, this chapter got a bit spiritual. So uh, kind of go like last time. We'll just dive into conversation and see where it takes us and exploring the concepts of the book.
Spirit guides.
So what did you guys feel about
Uh,
God and archangels and angels?
yes. For me, whenever she talks about her friend Lauren,
Hmm.
like being one of her spirit guides, I feel like that resonates more for me. Um, Seeing how conversations with people, with strangers at times whenever I really needed to hear something, I feel like that's more like how the universe like speaks to me. Um, what are your guys' thoughts?
I uh, had a bit of exposure to spirituality thanks to my mom. She's very into the archangels, and I guess from a very young age, she would tell me like pray for Archangel Michael if you need protection.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
so and there's a few times when I was a child where I'd be like, Archangel Michael, I'm going through a hard time, protect me. And, I think a lot of that still sticks with me today.
Hmm. So Max, I'm curious then, you seemed a bit resistant to it, but it sounds like you're actually practicing it a tad bit.
Yeah, ain't that something confusing?
Mm,
Do you care to elaborate on that? No worries if not.
Uh, I think there's like a belief system that I have, like even like I guess as a young child, I was like told to believe in these things, right? And I think there's a real sense, of like of a person feeling protected, right? Whether that be otherworldly or it just might be in your own mind. You might just calm down. I don't know. I don't know if what's true or not there, but I choose to believe in in Christianity in the sense, as a Southern Baptist.
I would unsolicited advice, I would actually no. I'm not gonna give advice. I'll recite I'll recite a very important quote that will be with me forever, which is your relationship with your decisions is the most important thing. So if you're doing these things that aren't wholly aligned and there's creating separation in yourself, I just challenge you to reevaluate and making sure you're doing something that feels good, whether that is fully invested in it or not. But if you're operating from a split state, then you might confuse yourself.
Right?
is that a quote from this book?
No,
I don't think so. No.
No.
um, any other insights, takeaways, shares, resonance? I'll share on very, very new experience. Actually, as I was reading this chapter, I will remember it very specifically now. Reading in a bathtub while I was in Dallas at the apartment, and 3 weeks prior, I had my psilocybin men's retreat, and at the end of the retreat, the energy worker, she came up to me and she said that she felt a grandmother presence in the room for me, and that she was looking over me. This was very interesting, something I'd never been exposed to. So as I was reading that part about her grandmother, it started to bring resonance. And as I was reading in a hot bath, I got full body, or rather, my God chills on like the left side of my body. Um, I thought it was very fascinating. I then asked for a sign for which of my grandmothers it was, and their names are Helen and Bonnie, both of which are very uncommon names. And at a movie the other day, the name Helen came up twice. So I'm taking it was my mother's side, but first time with any experience like that. So, and had some
Mm.
conversation with my mom since, but now take it that my grandmother on my mom's side is guiding me in some capacity.
So those were two separate events that those happened at?
What do you mean? So
Like
the so
you
the I think what you're asking. So the first one was the psilocybin trip
Mhm.
at the men's retreat. And the energy worker came to me and shared that I hadn't, like, there was no association of that in my mind. We hadn't read this book, like none of that. So I was just like, oh wow, interesting. Do you know which one it was? She didn't know.
Mm.
Um, and then yeah, and then this is, 2, 3 weeks later, I'm reading this book and I get those like full chills on this side of my body. Um, and it's very fascinating. And my mom said her dad communicates with her in different ways. She's always been curious as to why her mom doesn't communicate with her. And her friend said that she's somebody else's angel. So, um,
Mm.
very interesting. Yeah, and then seeing the name Helen twice, which I can't recall the last time I've ever seen that name. And I wasn't thinking about it when
Yeah.
I saw it. So I
So you don't have a relationship with your grandma, or
no, never really did. I don't
Mm.
know. So I thought that was very fascinating. Really brought a lot of tears to my eyes though that she is wanting to look over me. So I will share more as it comes, but I find that very, very fascinating.
You don't think that it was just subconsciously in the back of your mind that caused you to think of that name when you saw it?
It could be. Um,
And that before, like it wasn't, present in the back of your mind?
yeah, it could be. I asked for a sign. I saw it twice in the movies. Once it was like a full screen of credits and I turned around and I saw it. I wasn't thinking of it. So it's hard to think that could be it. Um, but as I lean into my faith and relation to the unseen, I find there are less accidents, in my
Mm.
experience. So, um, yeah, it's my experience and opinions around that.
Oh, fair enough.
I like how we're
No
sharing our
incident.
I like how we're sharing our personal experiences.
Yeah,
Because I think that reveals a lot more about how we really feel. What do
yeah,
you
Mm.
think?
definitely. And I also love sharing and talking about beliefs with people who are different. I actually had like a random like 30-minute conversation in the parking lot yesterday, with this girl who runs a podcast called Bible Baddies, and just like
Mm.
super random. And we literally got into conversation about like how we disagree. And I was like, yeah, like that just doesn't resonate with me. And we were both talking about how cool it is that we have the opportunity to speak with people with different beliefs and like expand our perspective. But a lot of people see that as like as something to shy away from and be fearful of. And it often, what I think is, it speaks to the trust with which people have with their self and their ability to to hear other experiences because they subconsciously fear that it might switch their belief system.
Hmm.
So the more
Mm.
confident, the more that you're trusting like in yourself and your ability to either shift when you need to shift or not when you don't, like that will enable you to go into any experience and not be worried about being swayed.
Hmm.
Or to have, yeah, have a security
That's a good point.
within yourself and inside of your beliefs. Versus like if your beliefs are very like surface level, then you're probably not going to want to have people asking you questions about your beliefs. You might get triggered or
Mm,
upset whenever you start getting into that range of conversation.
yeah. I
Definitely.
like that. I like that a lot. That really just opens some things up for me. Thinking about some past conversations.
Hmm.
Mm.
Right? That's pretty insightful. Like a lot of people, I guess, might say that it's just like, oh, I'm a Christian. This is very surface level. They'd be like, they won't tell you, like, like, oh, I'm a Christian because I've read through the books of Acts and, I believed in the apostles' hardships and travels and what they were trying to relate to the Gentiles. And that's the message I choose to carry forward too.
Mm.
I've also
You could say that. That's pretty. Oh, sorry, go ahead. I
no,
was
you're good.
finished.
Sorry about that. I didn't mean to interrupt. I was gonna say I've also noticed a pattern in myself that when I when I find myself unsecure in a position where I'm not fully invested yet, like where I'm not fully, yeah, I guess invested myself, where it's like I haven't fully claimed that identity, then when that comes up, I will definitely speak on it a lot more and word vomit.
Mm.
Whereas if I'm like secure in it, I feel like it can be very short and everything and like confident in that, but I feel like I try and over explain when I'm not actually confident um in a space. I've noticed that mostly in regard to faith.
And you kind of see that with masters of like any craft. The person that like knows the most about it, um, probably like isn't the person that's going to be like kind of like flexing it in a way.
You think so?
Yeah. Or they say like there's like the rich people that are like flexing things, and those are like rich people. And then like wealthy people, like you could look at them and like you would never know that like they had money. Or like the person in martial arts that's maybe like quick to tell you that like, oh yeah, like by the way, like I could beat you up at any minute, or like I could kill you like in the blink of an eye, like probably like isn't a master at like their craft. Like they might be super good at it, but there's like a level of ego um, still in it that I feel like a master of a craft would have been able to come to terms with.
Yeah, I can definitely see that.
Wouldn't think Mr. Miyagi was the Kung Fu master.
I I'd say for the most part I agree. And then I would play devil's advocate by saying, isn't that just a level of humility rather than whether or not something is true of him?
Mastery.
That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking.
Yeah. Yeah. So humility and mastery would be two
Hmm.
different things.
Yeah, two totally different things that
But
could
I
work hand
well,
in
I feel
hand,
like
or could go
on the
differently.
spiritual like level of it, like the humility is a part of it too.
Humility
Like I feel
plus
like it,
mastery.
yes.
I could see that because they've gone through it, they know what it takes, and I think to continue the rabbit hole, I think when you achieve a state of mastery, you realize how much it took to get there, and in realizing how much it took you to get somewhere, you realize that you're not any more special for having got there. It actually just took a lot of work and time. So in
Mm.
that in itself, you're actually more humble because you're like, I'm not special. Like this shit took me a long ass time.
But
And you
shouldn't you
believe
have
it.
the right to brag and boast about that because you went and did that work and took the time to do all that?
But then at that point, you're more fulfilled by the thing that you do. That's probably why you've been there so long. So you're more fulfilled by the nature of it than the title that it gives you.
Mm, the internal validation or the internal aspect you get from it and not the external validation.
Yeah. And there's totally plenty of examples, I'm sure, that contradict any of these. But
Yeah, probably plenty of outliers.
yeah.
Mm.
All right, boys, let's hop on to chapter 7, do less and attract more. I'm sure we can all appreciate and desire that statement in and of itself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How I'll posture a question. Um, when you guys feel like you're having the most success, do you realize, or can you draw the correlation that you're not trying to force and control as much when you're having more success?
Yeah.
Wait, what?
So when you notice yourself feeling really successful or producing really well in a capacity, do you feel that that's often correlated with not forcing and not controlling a situation?
Intellectually, I understand that, and spiritually, I understand that, and I don't feel like I've seen results in my life around that. I feel like I've seen whenever I hustle and like whenever I like push and like control and grind, it's hard and it's like difficult and like it's a pain in the ass. But like even if it's like slowly inching somewhere, then it's still like inching there. And I don't feel like I've been successful enough in a broad scope of things to be able to speak on the like the letting go. But all of the books and all of the podcasts talk about that right there. The um less is more.
Max, Logan, any take?
Or
What would you
I feel
constitute
like,
as controlling?
I think it's an energy. I mean, I know it's an energy. And I've been able to develop a really good discernment around it where I'll notice like I think for me what how I realize I'm controlling or forcing is when I'm so fixated on a specific outcome as opposed to the
Mm.
work itself that I'm doing.
Yeah, so the journey versus the destination.
Yeah, where I'm like so fixated on like fuck, like I gotta make this thing happen. But then when I like fall in love with the process and I start to do that thing where it's like I'm not forcing, I'm not pushing, I'm just doing the thing from a state of joy, I feel like the results tend to be exponentially
Mm.
better. And I have
Yeah.
seen that in a lot of regards in the recent that feel like it really validates that.
Yeah, I would definitely have to agree with that.
And I've also tried like trying to stop myself or realigning myself when I feel that energy. It's like, oh, like I realize
Mm.
because and she talked about it. She said that like when you're forcing, when you're controlling, like you're more irritable, you're more angry, you're more like um
Mm-hmm.
exalt like it just comes with all of these lower thing emotions. And that is
Yeah.
like in itself the resistance to what is are those feelings. Because when you're
Mm,
not in resistance, when you're just in a state of acceptance, like you're more joyful, you're more peaceful, you're more abundant. Like those emotions are quite literally the result of being resistant.
Mm.
mm,
Yeah, I feel like I was kind of having that when I was doing the social media and stuff posting, kind of that resistance that kind of made me, irritable and, me was trying to control everything on the front end.
Mm, gotcha.
So I can definitely see what type of resistance you're talking about.
Yeah. Thanks for the
I feel
example.
like, I feel like you hit on something key, Anthony, is that you're striving for a certain expectation. Just saying, I'm not going to feel like I'm succeeding until I've hit this exact target that I think, visualizes or symbolizes success, right? And I feel like when you're doing that, like half the time you're shooting yourself in the foot because uh when you focus on having fun, right, you're in a state of acceptance to accept something similar to that success or something better, which is the which always catches me off guard. This whole chapter right here, do less and attract more. Uh, the author kind of like opens up my mind by saying like this or something better. I accept it. Um, and for me, that's really powerful because most of the time I don't walk into things expecting something better,
Mm.
right, than what I had preconceived in my mind already.
Mm.
But if you're walking in there in a state of acceptance and you're like, hey, I'm just gonna focus on having fun, I'm not gonna be glued to this certain outcome, and you might walk out of there with something better.
Yeah, I like that, Max.
Mm.
And that's why I feel like doing less and attracting more really resonates with me.
Yeah, and that ignited a thought in me that is, if I walk in somewhere with a very strong expectation versus an intention, then if that expectation is not met, then it feels like a loss or a failure. Like the expectation is the cap, whereas when it's surrendered and there's an intention, it's almost like accepting that God has something that can be significantly better than what I had intended. Whereas if I'm fixated on that expectation, I'm saying like this is the cap, so anything that's not this is less than. Um,
Mm.
so yeah, I like how you said that, Max.
I like that. Yeah, I definitely feel like I definitely put a lot of expectations on how certain events are supposed to turn out as well.
Mm.
I like something I wrote down was when triggered and bear with my notes. When triggered and in fear, we often revert to childlike states where we will do anything to feel safe. Um, and that really connected with me, like the idea, because the trigger is something
So,
past, so like it's triggered. Cool, now I'm doing this thing that was developed often in a child position, especially us being so young, that I'm like resorting to this childlike state. So I don't know how long, if that would resonate in 10, 15 years, but as of right now, like when I look back at these triggers, it's like all of them were started like, you know, high school, college, younger than that. Um, and so it's like almost like, yeah, like actually literally like reverting to a childlike state. I'm like, wow, I'm literally like acting like this child version of me. So I just thought that was really
mhm.
Mm.
fascinating for
Cool.
emphasize that.
Yeah, for sure.
Um, Having patience versus being in the energy of needing something now. She says manifesting your dreams takes time. And if you have faith in the universe and you are spiritually aligned, then it's only a matter of time before the universe answers. Patience allows the universe to prepare you by gathering the support you need to take the steps in your life. You'll soon see your desires come into form in clear, concrete, and sometimes beautifully startling ways. But how do you know if you're spiritually aligned? When you are cognizant of your emotions and make an effort to seek joy, the decisions you make will begin to feel effortless and fun. At this point, you'll know that you're beginning to master the spiritually aligned action method. So something we've talked about in here, like
Is what chapter is that,
taking,
Trevor?
I think
Is
that's
that
chapter 8.
that is chapter 8? Yeah, so many of these actually like blurred together. I feel like there was so much repeat. So I was just curious if we're reading out of that.
Yeah.
Go
oh
ahead though. I
wait,
just wanted to check.
I was reading from from the wrong section of my notes.
I will say like a lot of this did in fact like feel like a lot of repeat in different postures. Um,
Yes.
isn't bad. Um, especially like the appreciation chapter, which we'll get to. Like it drew up a lot that I was like, wow, like I feel like so much of my good luck is definitely attributed to that.
Oh yeah, that's something that you've been posting about lately.
Somebody
The
said it
big
to me
bit.
and I really like sat with it. And I just like realized how fucking lucky I am. I literally
Yeah.
just get free shit all the time. Crazy. I got a free meal and like four BOGOs yesterday and a free dessert at this restaurant and like had lunch with this random guy and I was like, hey dude, yeah, like I'll split half of it. He tried the same thing. They told him no.
Wait, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, bro.
Wait,
I felt kind of bad. So I went to this restaurant. It's like a little counter serve. It was real cool, little clean eats place, and I was just at the counter and I was like, I ordered my meal. I was like, is there any way I can get a free dessert over there? And she's like, yeah, go ahead. And then the guy literally came up right after me and she told him no. He did the same
what?
thing. I was like, oh shit.
You're joking.
Yeah, I don't, but like when I asked for something, and I started to associate this, like I feel like I already have it.
Well,
That sounds
it
silly
also
to say, right?
depends. I think you're missing a part of the story where, how did he ask for it?
And was he white?
He was,
No, well, it's just,
He was black?
he was black.
What was your answer?
I think, I think how you ask for something, it really has a consequence on the situation.
I think it's all energy.
Yep. It
Yeah,
could be
The
it
energy.
charisma.
is the energy. The way you ask for
The
something is the
energy.
energy.
It's
All
the
right,
way you're scared.
I
I rest my
did split it.
case.
I did split it with them and like sat down and like
Yeah.
lunch with a random stranger for like 30 minutes, just chatted with them. So it was,
Yeah.
There you
Nice.
go. You ended up making his day.
I did. He's very happy. So,
Nice.
Did you talk to him about the luck?
uh, yeah, a little bit. I forgot. We mostly talked. He's really curious. When I had him, basically talked mostly about travel and yeah, it was fascinating. But it was cool because this guy like very clearly like um introverted. And I would say to some capacity like kind of socially awkward. So it like I always appreciate those moments when when I see someone that's like more closed and reserved and then just get them to open up. Like it always feels really good.
Hmm.
Nice.
Okay, we'll go chapter 9. Appreciate and appreciate more.
Fine.
Hey, I thought we were at 8 now. Or
I think we
never
just did
mind.
8, no?
Okay, we just did 8. Now we're on 9.
Um,
Okay.
No, no, we didn't. You're right, Max. I'm sorry, I skipped that.
Wait, we did.
No, we didn't. We were
Well,
do less attract more.
yes.
Okay,
Oh,
good catch, Max. Chapter 8, taking spiritually aligned action. I had short notes for this one, so that's why I kind of like missed it.
Trevor had something important to say. He was going over some verses in chapter
yes.
8.
oh, that's
But
why. Yeah.
yes, just taking action that isn't aligned with you and what you've declared to the universe, and then how things will just fall into place around you. Just getting super clear on your why, getting super clear on your purpose, declaring it to the universe, showing up in aligned action to that, and then watching as things kind of just fall in place in front of you without all of a sudden the people that you're meeting. Um, and then the cool example for me was whenever I was coming up with Fungaia, right after we had the idea, I bumped into a cook at the ski resort who is my now graphic designer. And we were just in a conversation and was telling him this idea that we had had the previous day. And he's like, "Oh, I went to school for graphic design. Let me make you some mock-ups." And then came back to us with our logo and our bag design. And then at Dollar General, I bumped into the woman that was in charge of the farmers market and got us into the farmers market. So then it's like the people you bump into and the conversations you start having, the universe puts people in your path for you to show up, to be present, for you to be in alignment, and then take action.
You don't think that's just coincidence?
No, I don't think that's just coincidence.
Okay, fair enough.
Um, Thanks for the share, brother.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I will that first line that I put down, probably one of the biggest things I took from this book. Those who are certain of the outcome can afford to wait and to wait without anxiety.
Oh,
Ooh,
yeah,
I
I
like
remember that
that.
part.
Ooh, I
Yeah.
like that. Mm.
Yeah. And it really just stuck with me. I feel like I really get in these anxious states, and it's like, well, that's because you don't believe it's actually coming. Fear to believe it's actually coming, you do the things
Yeah.
without any type of anxiousness at all. It's only the fear that it's not coming, which repels the thing. So
Mm.
I read that and I was like, damn. So anytime like I catch myself in an anxious state when I'm working, um, in the recent, just stop. Like literally just stop. If there is an anxious amount of effort in the work, like literally stop. Like there's it is so disserving to create from a
Mm,
space of anxiety or fear or worry.
Like that.
yeah.
I did all of these notes by voice note. Um, so this one came out wrong. Manifesting is the creative process of aligning with the energy of the universe to procreate an experience. Supposed to say co-create.
Ah, okay. That makes more sense.
Well, to get it on with the universe.
Mm-hmm. The spirit babies.
You could be a.
Mm-hmm.
Mm, 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 mm. We've talked about this quite a bit. The last note I had taken here. When you reflect and see ways that you fell into fear, don't feel ashamed. Be proud that you recognize the misalignment. And that is
Mm,
a good segue to the next chapter where it's appreciation. So like just being able to like, and I've started to practice this and it feels really good where you just like appreciate, you're like, oh wow, look at me making the same mistake. How silly. I appreciate that I can see that now and I can
mm,
do the same shit.
That's not what I do, but that's definitely a good way to look at it.
yeah, it is. Oh, like I'm so silly.
Oh my God, I just appreciate being so dumb.
Right. It's good
Language.
to have some humor about it. It's just saying like, oh, I have awareness of this now.
Oh yeah, if you can
Yep.
start laughing at a problem, you take away all its power.
Yeah.
Actually, I do that sometimes.
Yeah.
Well, so I
I'm
ran
like,
into. Oh, wait, you go,
no,
Logan.
go ahead. Go ahead. It's
Okay.
on
Get
you,
a
brother.
car, then I don't know. You said
Say
you run.
what?
Oh, that's gonna be a bad story if so.
Uh-uh. It's on you.
Um, okay. So if you can understand that, if you can laugh yourself out of a space where you notice feelings of like shame, are you not feeling the feelings? Are you not allowing yourself to feel?
At which point you start to laugh, you've already put yourself into a state of feeling that thing.
Okay. So for me, then I think where I think in the past I've tried to use it as a bypass, where if I notice myself starting to feel it, then I'm like, oh, like ha 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 ha. I'm gonna laugh myself out of that space now before I can um like fully feel that because feeling that is scary.
Yeah, I definitely see where you're coming from because I noticed like one thing with my family is the pattern to cover different emotions with laughter. And it's an innate response that's used, in my opinion, as a state of avoidance. Or
Yeah.
and it's used as actually like a precursor right before feeling something. And a lot of people do this with emotions where they get to a place of almost feeling a state of grief or a state of like something, something more intimate and more emotional, and then it will be mocked. Now I see this in like dynamics where there's more than one person. It's hard to say one person, but I understand what you're saying in that regard. With the one person though, I guess I don't follow on the one person where that would come up.
Yeah, I think I understand what you're saying there, where then like somebody will do something like silly or make a joke or do something to kind of ruin the moment like a little bit like before it gets like super serious and touchy-feely. Um, for me, it's like recognizing that instead of feeling that feeling intellectually, I can just laugh. And the because I'm laughing, it's going to shake up, it's going to disrupt um that feeling in pattern and it's going to push it off and it's going to avoid it.
Hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
so in my head, because well, I think I had read something about like alchemizing like your emotions and like being able to transmute negative negativity into like positivity. So I think that's where what I thought I was trying to do at the time, but later on realizing that it's a pattern of avoidance
So
or
what?
bypass.
With laughing, right?
Yeah.
Laughing's the bodily
So you're
avoidance.
saying you shouldn't be doing that?
I don't know. I've been confused on this.
So
Okay.
here's what was
I
shared
see
with
what you're saying.
is that when it's like a level 5 or lower on the intensity of the emotion, like someone like your girlfriend cheats on you and you try and cover that with laughter or something, that's totally different. If you're working yourself up into an anxious state, thinking about something fearful that might happen that hasn't even actually happened, and you're starting to
Yes.
laugh then you're like taking away from it's literally an illusion because that thing hasn't even happened yet. So
Yeah.
I think it's especially powerful in reference to anxiety. I think that, yeah, laughter can definitely, and multiple other things can use as avoidance with deeper things, but I think especially in regards to it's not as heavy, or maybe you are getting frustrated with something like, oh my God, like Logan getting, and I'm just using an example. I don't know what his experience has been with this, but if he's like sitting there just like racking his head, like Google business, and like if
Mhm.
it's been an hour and a half and he's like been on hold and then it hangs up, and if he were to just like dwell on that and angry as fuck, which I have totally done that, like if I'm to sit there and dwell on that and be super pissed for like a minute and then just start laughing, like why am I giving this my power? Like how silly is this? Like I think that's like a really good example of like using that laughter in a way, and it's almost not even like the thought isn't like, oh, let me make a joke out of this. It's just like you literally see how silly the situation is. So it's more of like an actual response where you're allowing yourself to let go of it and realize how silly you had been. So I hope that helps.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's
That
helped
makes
me a
sense.
lot because I used to definitely have like some anger management issues. Max and Logan can vouch for that.
You didn't used to get angry at all.
Nice, you're being sarcastic now. But
Uh,
yeah, I've definitely seen you take great strides, and
Sure.
releasing that, Anthony.
Yeah, my mom's wall is still not happy, but we're good.
Your mom's what?
My mom's wall in the
Oh,
living.
her wall.
I was
God.
unicycling
Oh,
away and I just kept falling and I just like fucking mad and like smacked the wall. My heart dropped right through my body.
I bet that feeling emotion of anger definitely left your body at that point.
Oh yeah, fear. Well, it was still fear based. I was still very fearful.
Yeah, it went from anger to fear though.
About to be in a lot of trouble. It was a lot of regret.
Regret, yeah,
Actually,
definitely a lot of regret.
before it was like this
Uh,
rage and then it went to regret. I was like, "Oh, this is actually
yep. I was like, damn, probably shouldn't have done that. Yeah.
um
but yeah, that does resonate though, where the
Punching walls.
yeah, exactly. But for the more serious and deeper situations, to really allow yourself to feel that. But if you are in a state of creating the fear, then laughter can 100% be a way of alchemizing that energy and disrupting it.
Something else that served me, and literally like in the past week is literally just as soon as you vocalize something out loud to somebody else, um, I have seen myself like those things completely lose power as soon as they're like spoken out loud to someone else. And like I say it out loud and I'm like, oh wow, this like it just almost takes it away. And if I have like tension with somebody, or I had a friend reach out yesterday and she'd been really flaky and had blew off some plans and like I just like straight up told her, like she reached out, she's like, "Hey, you want to go co-work?" I was like, "Honestly, I don't really want to give you too much energy. Like I haven't felt reciprocation, like, and I'm not mad at you. I'm not asking you to change. I'm just like at this time I'm being wise with my time and energy because it's really valuable." Um,
Mm.
and I wanted to share that. Um, and I noticed um how much it lightened the even like if she didn't respond, just speaking it out loud took so much weight out of the words that I was saying because when they were stored in my body, they felt so much heavier. So to literally verbally talk about things, even
You
if
were on the phone?
no, I left her an audio, but then she called me and we are on the phone
Uh,
for 30 minutes. And that helped even more, but it was very
nice.
alleviating to just like
Yeah.
in any way to release whatever it is stored in your body. So just
Yeah.
that in case it's valuable for y'all.
Mm. Beautiful.
All right, now Max, we're on chapter 9. So if you have anything,
Uh,
appreciate more.
well, yes,
Mm.
appreciate more. What I like about this chapter is kind of a build up uh to the rest of the story that she tells in the book because she goes in um chronological order. He's like, well, we got married and then you know, and then we started trying to have kids and then, hey, I actually have a kid. And at the end of the book, she's like, oh, it's been 8 weeks, since I've had my child and I just like how she starts off the story like this, about her relationship with her husband and everything.
Little
And
full
how,
which helps the story.
yeah. So I appreciate the context.
Uh,
Um,
Go ahead, Max. Favorite point in this chapter? Anything you want to share? Any lesson?
Any lesson. Um, there's this one that really stands out to me. It's called Making Appreciation a Habit, because I've seen how powerful that is in my own life. Like, let's see, when I first started journaling, I found it very powerful to write, like, well, what are some 10 things, that are going on in my life right now that I'm happy about? And it wouldn't matter what I was feeling like, when I first started journaling, like by the end of it, I would had a smile on my face, because like, oh man, there's really a lot of good stuff that's happening in my life. And, I just don't take the time to reflect that enough. So,
Mm.
Mm.
Nice. Are you still
Speaking on
journaling
that,
right now?
yes, it's actually a part of my journaling habit that I have as part of this Master My Power group, is I take at least 5 minutes every day to write a gratitude journal.
Mm.
So whole journal. Fantastic, brother.
something I didn't share with you guys, I shared with Logan. Making the shift for our check-ins and the evening check-in. Instead of a win of the day, 3 highlights. These don't necessarily have to all be things you created. I'd challenge it to be, but moving forward, selecting 3 highlights. And that's
Wait, so
an
it's three
opportunity.
highlights
Yeah.
per day?
Yep. More
So wouldn't
opportunity
that
for
just be
gratitude.
3 wins of the day?
Yeah, it could be considered 3 wins. Wins are wins though are generally like sometimes you've shared about a concert. A concert's not necessarily a win 'cause it's not something you created, but it could be a highlight.
Mm,
But it's really just an opportunity to express gratitude in life. And I'm sure that we can never do
nice.
too much of that.
Yep, that's for sure. Always
Um,
appreciate more.
At one point, she was talking about she had a friend who had made a bad business decision that was causing him to spiral for a couple of months. And then she suggested to him that he change his viewpoint to appreciation and being able to be appreciative of the experience so that way you don't have to make the same mistake again. Um, in this group, we've talked about being able to phrase every decision in life as an opportunity for growth, every stumble as a chance to get back up and be stronger.
Sure.
Like that kind of
Absolutely.
Like that.
Something she mentioned is appreciation, not word for word, paraphrasing. Appreciation is your ticket out of being stuck, even if you are appreciating the being stuck.
Mm,
So the universe responds to energy and delivers things that are vibrational matches. And Preston Smiles talks about this a bit. He talks about how he manifested this dream car, but he could have never done that without first having appreciated the car that he actually had. Um, and so that comes to mind.
Right.
It's like just appreciate because it's so easy to fall. I won't say so easy. I find it very difficult. I think for a lot of the society, it's so easy to find um disappointment or whatever in our situation. But if we're able to appreciate where we're at, then that is literally the solution in some regard to actually getting unstuck.
mm. Yeah, that one resonates for me a lot right now. As I've been sitting in um, unworthiness for relationship or for love, I think a lot of it stems from externally, like me looking at my own position, where it's like um, I've been living with my parents. I don't have a vehicle, um, but I'm super appreciative of my family for letting me borrow a car and for letting me stay with them and helping me through this transitional aspect of my life. Um, but I haven't been phrasing that narrative as appreciation as much as I could be or should be.
You have the greatest vehicle on God's earth, your 2 legs.
Yeah.
Oh, first time I heard that one.
Somebody put Logan up on our stage.
Yeah.
Put me up
We've got
there.
we've got a comedian in the
That's what
house.
I was saying.
I have something to add here is that there's a part in this chapter where it talks about appreciation is the antidote to worry.
You stole mine. I was just about to read it. Worry and appreciation cannot coexist.
Yeah, because like the minute you can appreciate something, right, the worry about it goes away. Like I used to be so worried before I would take exams, at the university. I'd just be worried. I'd just be constantly worried, and I would be worried because other people would be studying and be worried.
It's
And then
understandably so.
and then what would snap me out of that though is this appreciation that I had for being in the class already.
Yeah.
Because it was when I was in the master's program that I actually thought this way because I was like because um because I had that unique opportunity to go to class and I had a chance to appreciate the university. I was like, you guys, I'm so happy to be here already. Like you don't understand how stoked I am. to take this test and test my knowledge, right? Even if I was like completely unprepared, I was like, I'm gonna take this quiz. I'm gonna get it graded, and and it's gonna turn out the way it's gonna turn out. And the result didn't matter. It was the fact that it's just the fact that I was there. That I was happy. That makes sense to you guys.
It
Yeah.
does make perfect sense. Beautiful.
Mm.
Are you guys ready to move to chapter 10?
Yes, sir. I'll be right back. I'm gonna go to the restroom real quick.
Yeah.
Uh,
Let the universe catch up with your dreams.
learning how to relax.
Something that's been just repeated over and over. And I mean, I think so much of our conversation is just reiterations of the same thing. Although we're doing some deep dives, which I really enjoy. Um, the universe knows more than you. And the prefront to that was simply let go and allow. And I think that is the epitome of faith. And faith, they also said faith is the greatest miracle of all, because faith is trusting that there is more. Faith is trusting that there is something higher of a higher power than us. I call it God. We can all call as to what we desire. But there's something greater than us. And when we have faith in that thing, it's like it's almost permission to not know everything. Almost permission to oh, I don't know everything. And there's peace in that. And I think that's where your faith is actually derived, is in the peace of I don't know everything. I don't know all the plans. I couldn't even come up with the best plan for myself if I wanted to. Like faith is the epitome of of not knowing. And
Mm.
I think just leaning into that the universe and God knows more than us.
Mm.
Yeah, let the universe catch up with your dreams.
I liked the part not
Are we on
pertinent
11? Are we on 10?
10.
10. Okay, cool.
Not pertinent right now, but in the part where it talked about children, and it's already discussed like how they have a thin veil between the physical world and the spiritual realm, um, and how so they mentioned in this chapter about them guiding us, like our children, like they'll come say stuff. She gave the example of her daughter coming up to her being like, "Mommy, there's a baby on the way." Um, It's really cool how kids are so connected to that because they're so much closer to source than us. They've built much less human onto themselves, so they're so much closer.
Mm.
And then it talked about that if you have a child to support their spiritual gifts,
Mm.
and in that they are more likely to keep those gifts. Whereas if a child has like imaginary friend and all this stuff, and you're like suppressing that and like, hey, stop that, like don't do that, like that's not real, or any way in which you shut down their gifts, then it's so much less likely that they're going to carry those things on as they get older.
Uh,
Can you guys recall any experiences where your parents encouraged you to hold on to any spiritual gifts?
not necessarily for me.
Is that a question?
Yes.
If I retained any spiritual gifts?
Or if you ever had a parent, if you can recall any instances where you had your parents encouraged you to exercise that spiritual gift, whether it's an imaginary
Hmm.
friend or performing a magic trick or anything.
I can't think of anything, but I feel like there had to be some type of suppression in some regard or another. But I can't even think back to like having an imaginary friend or anything.
I can't think of any imaginary friends, but I remember at one time my sister was sick and my mom was telling me to like put my hands on her and that I could heal her. And then like the next morning, like she wasn't sick anymore. And I don't know if that's because she just happened to get over the sickness or the medicine she took. But for me as a kid, like it reinforces thought patterns inside of my head that I'm a healer. Um, and I've had conversations with my mom recently about that and like what encouraged that behavior on her part. And she's like, I don't know. She's like,
I don't know.
yeah. She's like,
Nice.
it wasn't in alignment with the um Catholic belief she had at the time. But
Mm,
for whatever reason, it stood out a lot to me as a kid.
nice.
Fascinating.
Yeah,
You're good.
That's awesome. I'm
yeah,
glad that you had that uh, reinforcement as a child, that,
yeah,
like, hey, I can see other things that people don't see.
exactly.
As for me, like, my mom is very spiritually heavy, you know, and, and, she was always very encouraging of me, to try to seek out spirits, right? And then to, I don't know, I guess try to read more into things than, that's like, more than normal. And I feel like that has actually, stuck with me, like, uh, call me superstitious, right? But I always try to look for a spiritual meaning, in things that happen to me. Um, even though I don't like, even though I don't like tell everyone out loud, I'm just kind of thinking in the back of my mind. I'm kind of like, well, how is this, like, how is this, a spirit or like a unnatural coincidence,
Mm,
Best thing in the universe.
yeah.
right? You gotta trust in the universe.
Mm.
I'm ready to trust in the universe and some things. I'm like, all right, I give up. I'm just ready to accept.
The more
Let
you
him
allow,
just
the
take.
more you attract.
Allow what?
The more you allow, the less it
Uh,
is.
The more you allow to happen to you, or the more you allow to.
Take it for what you mean. Straight quote from the book. The more you allow, the more you attract.
Okay.
Allow is the opposite of resist.
Hmm. Okay.
for me, like it's like accepting the fact that I'm not the only one that drives a certain outcome, right? Like I used to think like, like I used to be the only one. It's just like, hey, it's just Max against the world, you know, for finding a girlfriend. That's just this the mental path that I took, like the for most of my life until I read books like this.
Mm.
I'm kind of like, well, maybe I just don't have to do it all myself.
And don't try to control it.
Yeah.
Something she said in this chapter, ask for signs and pay attention to the guidance you may receive. The more specific your sign, the more clear the universe can be with you.
Mm.
The
Yeah.
more like
Specific
you
yours.
being super specific on what you want your sign to be.
Yeah, like
Yes.
show me this in the next, 24 hours. And I mean, for me, like with the grandma, back to that grandma situation, I said, like show me the name Helen or show me the name Bonnie.
Yeah,
Um, take it for what you want, but like the more specific, and I mean, try it. Try it with things that you're
yeah,
doing in your life. And I know
But
mine used
like,
to be this, and I would
oh
be
my
like,
bad, go ahead.
really discount it. I'd be like, okay, sure, whatever.
yeah. I remember the first time I was whenever I was first getting into spirituality, I watched like a 3 hour like YouTube video on like how to manifest. And I was like feeling super excited. Like I was like, I'm gonna like manifest me winning the lottery, and I'm gonna get like a bajillion dollars, and I'm gonna retire my parents, and I'm gonna go move to Bali and everything, right? So I did like a 3 hour like visualization like meditation, and I like journaled, and I like wrote it down like 100 times in my notebook, like the same
Oh my
sentence,
gosh.
and like I was just like, I was like locked in. I was like, I'm gonna win the lottery, and I went and I bought a lottery ticket, and I didn't win it. Um,
Damn.
but then the next day, we were going to what's that? Oh, Enchanted Rock. You guys know Enchanted Rock
We
in,
do.
in Texas?
We do,
Yeah.
of course.
So but we had got there like maybe midday, so they ran out of tickets. But as we were, I was like, a park ranger was walking by, and like I was like talking to them, and I was like, oh, like you guys don't have any more tickets. And then she's like, well, actually, you won the lottery. I have one more ticket for you. And I was like, what?
What?
3 hours for this?
Yeah. Well, but she was like, you won the lottery. And I was like, whoa, like, okay, universe, like, I see you. So it's like,
Nice.
it
What you
didn't
asked
happen
for?
the way
Something
that,
better.
Yep, that is
yeah.
facts. You might have not got the
Mm,
lotto, but you got to see a rock. That's
yeah.
nice. A beautiful rock.
And well, but I was manifesting like winning the lottery, and I won the lottery.
Definitely did. That's nice. Wow. That's a cool story.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Ooh.
Anything for you guys left on chapter 10?
Uh, did you guys ever hear about the spiritual meaning of wild turkeys?
Conception.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, I just like this particular example, you know, when the author was asking for specific signs from the universe letting her know that, like her desires are coming to fruition.
Mm.
And now when she sees, like stuff to about wild turkeys, she's like, oh my gosh, it's the universe talking to me. So I just feel like there's a lot of examples in this book about letting the universe catch up with your dreams, letting the universe have those specific signs saying like, "Hey, you're almost there," or "Hey, you're getting closer."
Mm.
I agree.
For
Like
sure.
progress check.
You guys have a favorite color?
Of course.
My favorite color is yellow.
Hmm. Hmm.
Orange.
Orange, okay.
Mine is turquoise.
Turquoise blue,
Turquoise blue. Yep.
okay.
Or turquoise purple.
Turquoise purple is a
Sometimes,
nice one.
sometimes people say turquoise green, because they're,
Turquoise can be green.
but I,
It's like a greenish blue though.
yeah.
Turquoise.
Do you have a favorite color, Anthony? Blue?
Navy blue.
That's not baby blue.
No, navy
I think
blue.
you said navy blue.
Navy, sorry. Thought you said baby blue. I was like, it's not baby. Navy blue, okay.
Not very baby, but uh,
All right, we'll hop to chapter 11. Unwavering faith in the universe. And I will start with pointing out faith is not hoping that God will help you. Faith is knowing that help is on the way.
on the way from God or just from anybody?
Help is on the way.
Hmm.
All help is from God.
Mm.
But that I'm just quoting her exact quote from the book, but I take it
Like
that
that's deep. That's deep.
all help is divine help.
The mantra she uses of I choose love instead, to always come back to love instead of fear.
Hmm.
Yeah, and fear
I
is
choose.
be a guide back to love.
Running from and denying your fear only gives it more momentum. Like that.
Here's a question. If you guys had to sum up the one message you took away from this book, what would that be?
Like the synopsis of the book, or something that I've taken away that I was.
I I would say the one central theme that you notice in the book. I feel like so much of this like can really root back to the same exact thing.
It doesn't have to be hard. Um, Stop trying to control everything.
I'd say
Let
that
go.
the energy you put out is the energy you manifest.
I like that. Yeah, probably have to go
Uh,
similar to Logan.
Say what?
Probably had to go something similar to that. I hadn't thought of an answer. I just asked you guys off the cuff, so just brainstorm myself.
I just thought of
Manifest.
something.
What?
What?
I was just gonna say like manifesting your desires by taking aligned action and aligning your energy with the universe, choosing to feel positive emotions.
Yeah.
What were you gonna say,
But
Max?
you have to choose feeling those positive emotions. I'm saying that to be a super attractor, you don't have to be super version of yourself.
I thought you were gonna say super
Mm,
attractive.
You
All
don't
No,
right.
have
you
to be
don't have to
super
Yeah.
be
attractive.
you don't have to be a super version of yourself. You have to feel good about who you already are. And that's the biggest message I got from this.
Like that. Although it doesn't hurt to be super attractive.
Noted.
Do y'all think? Oh, go ahead. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
Just gonna chime mine in. Feel great to manifest great.
Feel great to manifest great. Nice.
mm.
Go ahead with your question, Logan.
I was gonna say, you think more attractive people attract more into their life than less attractive people? Or do you think that doesn't play a role in stuff?
I think it definitely could play a role in certain people's life because if they see themselves as more attractive, they might feel better and be more confident. And ultimately, they're going to feel better from feeling more confident and then feeling good, they're going to attract more.
You don't think that they might have a little voice in the back of their head that says that they're only getting places because of their looks?
That's what I would think, that some people would be thinking that.
Well, at
That's
that
just me
point,
playing
then
devil's
their
advocate.
energy starts to shift to this place of fear that the thing that they're experiencing is not real. So then ultimately, they're rooted in fear. So I think it all comes down
Yeah.
to like that underlying energy, which the outside can always look 100% different than the inside. Like outside, it can
Mm,
look like all
Yeah.
different stuff, but then you're like, oh wait, in here it's all fear. No wonder you're exactly where you're at.
Hmm.
hmm, point. It's a good point.
Last thing I wrote down, and again, I had 4 pages left, which I will finish tonight. It's your responsibility to take care of your own energy. And I like how she said, like it's not your like if you're seeing energies and people, like you're hanging around with people and you see the way they're talking and the way that they're being like is not that which is gonna attract. Like if the energy you're seeing other people put out is not something you want to attract more of, then you're probably not in the right space. And being okay with that and understanding it's not your responsibility to worry about other people's energy.
Yeah,
Exactly.
only the energy that you're giving out, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's tough. I have in the past perceived it to be tough. Um,
It's definitely tough.
well, now you're just solidifying it to be tough.
I didn't say it was tough.
I would say that, but once you get that fluidity where you're okay, like where you develop this like stronghold where you're like, cool, from like a very grounded place, like I don't actually need anyone. Because there can be a very
Mhm.
egoic version. I've had someone I was friends with say that a couple months ago, in a very egoic sense. It was kind of like fuck all people. But when you have it from the state of you just love yourself so much and you realize like, oh, I'm so complete and I'll always find another way, and you're therefore then not attached to the external relationships you have, then you can kind of go through life where you're not holding on to anything out of a state of fear, and rather you're just constantly seeking alignment.
Mm.
I like that.
Yeah.
And
It's-
that's definitely easier said than done, but I've realized like as soon as you're okay, and it's part of like I shared with you guys like some of the I've had some harder conversations, and like those became easy because I was no longer attached to like, okay, if I have this conversation and this person isn't actually aligned with me, I'm gonna fail faster or like reach my fear point faster, which is ultimately just gonna realign like, okay, I'm either aligned with them or I'm not. Where I'm sitting in this middle ground is I don't actually know, and I'm holding on because of a fear of the loss. But if I become okay, like I'm okay with whatever
Mm,
outcome, I just want to seek alignment. Well, now I can have the hard conversation. Now I can do this. Now I can be 100% me because I don't care if I lose this thing or not. I just ultimately always
yeah.
want alignment.
And that's
Mm.
with every situation and relationship.
Yeah, 100%.
Mm,
And it's definitely hard. But like when you're at that like clean scape where like you're so good with just yourself, then now you're not relying. But like let's say
mm.
if you have like three good friends and you don't think you're capable of making new friends, you're like, well, I got to put up with these motherfuckers.
Yep,
And
pretty
that's a problem.
much.
So as soon as you
Yeah,
can,
that's a common process.
Say
yeah.
what?
And I think you'll see it too, like relationships, platonic and romantic, um, like you just hear people talk bad about people. And I feel like I used to be at a place where I do this. Um,
Mm.
and I was around people that weren't necessarily aligned. And and there was this fear like I had to hold on, or like holding on to past memories and all this, that felt like this need to hold on. And it was almost like when you look at the true roots of it, it's like, oh, it's fear. I don't believe that there's better than this. That's lack, which is ultimately rooted in fear. So
Yeah.
as soon as you can escape all those limiting beliefs, and it's like, okay, cool. Now I'm just gonna seek alignment at all costs because I literally wouldn't want anything else.
Mm.
Nice. Yeah, definitely easier said than done, but that's a good way to look in that perspective.
Awesome.
All right. Any other points you guys want to cover on chapter 11? You guys feel complete?
Yeah, well, I think we should care about how we feel, right?
100%.
100%.
There's,
Yeah,
I
because
used to think that,
the human emotion or the human experience is to feel.
I used to, I used to think, that, like all men aren't supposed to feel, we're supposed to be tough, supposed to have this hard exterior. But the truth is that you're allowed to have feelings. You're allowed to smile, you're allowed to be sad, and that's the truth. And there's one thing I wanted to share with you guys is that your baseline of happiness, right? You're allowed to have a new baseline of happiness. You don't have to say like, "Oh, now is the best time and it's never going to be this good ever again." You know, uh, open yourself up to having a new baseline of happiness. That's what I would
Mm.
say. It's okay to have feelings.
Life wouldn't be any good without 'em.
Beautiful. Mm.
Yeah.
All right, boys. Any other notes, or we feel complete? All right. Well,
I think it's
next,
pretty complete, yeah.
cool, cool. I've enjoyed the conversation, the personal rabbit holes. Um,
Mhm.
yeah, I really is definitely one of my favorite calls. There's a lot of I think in the energy books where it's more less tactics, I feel like we're able to dive into a lot of personal experience. So I
Yeah.
really enjoyed this. And then I think probably the seven of effective habits and the masculinity. We have some good ones. I think the only one that kind of bombed was Alchemist, but everything else has been pretty good.
I think so. What's our next book?
Santiago.
Think and Grow Rich.
Sure.
Think and Grow Rich.
Classic. So if you boys don't have it, I know it's a long
Ooh.
read. Go ahead, make sure you get it. This is, I mean, one of the most, I would dare say this is the most famous business book out there, or success book, or however you want to deem it. So make sure you get it soon. And Max, I'm sure you'll probably read it 3 times before we get to call. But
I'm loving it so far.
Oh goodness, here. It's crazy. That's crazy.
mine's unfortunately buried in storage, so I gotta go find it.
Mm.
Did not plan well.
I here's something I learned from school is that buy a used book. Not only is it good for the environment, but there's all sorts of things that are uh inherent about it that are really awesome. Like this book that I bought used from Half Price Books came with its own notes that I didn't even write.
Oh, that would drive me.
Oh,
Yeah,
I was about to say I'm very particular about books not having
I'm
anything in it
OCD.
before, so
If
I don't
somebody
think
Oh,
I'd enjoy
hey,
that.
somebody
I
highlight,
love it.
I'm losing my marbles.
Yeah, I might just throw away the
I feel
book.
I'd be like, ooh, like I'm wondering if they're like a wizard and like they have like secret spells like written in the note.
The secret treasure map inside.
Yeah,
Hey, that's
exactly.
be like getting two for the price of one.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Um, all right, just a quick preview
No, no,
about this
no,
book.
no.
I
Oh, no
Don't talk
previews.
anything on the book.
come on,
I
you
want I
can't
want it
say
going.
one
I don't.
thing.
Nope, 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 nope.
Nothing.
No previews.
Fine, fine. Everyone's giving me an X.
On our check-in
Boo.
tonight, Max. On our check-in tonight, you can share a little bit.
All right.
All right, boys. You guys have a great evening. Love you,
Alright,
boys.
hermano.
Good. And
Love ya.
we will I guess next time we'll tap in will be Sunday evening.